Hello and welcome to Beadschool. In this video I'm going to be continuing from my ladder stitch and demonstrate brick stitch. So I hope you saw the ladder stitch video. If you didn't, it's here. I'm going to use fireline, £4 fireline and a size 12 needle. And of course here's my sample of ladder stitch, okay, already done. And these are of course size 8 seed beads. So continuing on, I've worked my little piece of ladder stitch, and if you can see, I'm coming out of this side of this seed bead. I'll just move that aside, and the tail thread is coming out of the underneath, and I engineered it that way when I was making the ladder stitch sample. It shows you the right way and the wrong way. The thread's coming out of the top here, so I'm going to build on the subsequent rows of brick stitch from here. For the first stitch in brick stitch, you must always pick up 2 beads, and the thread between the beads is important because it's that you use to make the stitch. So I'm passing the needle underneath the thread between those 2 beads on the lower row, and I'll just draw it through and pass the needle back up through the second bead that I picked up for this stitch. And as I pull it tight, I'll just lay that down so that you can see. The 2 beads separate out and they sit side by side with their holes facing outwards. And the important thing is that you have this thread here between them. But the subsequent stitches in a row of brick stitch, you only pick up 1 bead. And I'm going to pass my needle underneath the thread between the next 2 beads, pull it along, and just pass the needle up again through the new bead I picked up, and that will sit next to those 2 in the first 2 of the row. I'll pick up a new one and bring that thread out of the way and pass underneath the thread and back up the new bead. And don't get it caught round the back of your ladder stitch, which is a frequent problem you can have. It's a good thing to trap your working thread behind. Not only does it help with the tension, but it keeps it out of the way and stops you piercing it and splitting it. So I'm going to pass underneath the thread and back up through the new bead. Now I'm just going to work towards the end of the row, and you'll see how you turn for the next row of brick stitch. Back up. It's taking on a lot more solidity now, and it's a good thing that in the ladder stitch foundation row, I passed round those beads at the end there a couple of times, because if I hadn't, when I go to pass the needle underneath that stitch, everything would come very loose. So it's important that you do that. So pass the needle underneath that thread and up through the new bead. Now I could leave it like that. As you can see, the second row is offset slightly from the foundation row, and that's the nature of brick stitch, because if you look at a brick wall, and the bricks will be offset against each other, row upon row. Now I can leave it there and continue building on upwards and stepping in each time, or I could actually place another bead at the end of the row. And if you remember, at the end of this row, the thread was actually coming out of this end bead, and I placed the 2 beads there. So what I can do is pick up a bead and mirror the beginning end and pass through that bottom bead, which was the very first bead in the row, and you see I've got that formation happening. Now I need to be able to come out of the top beads in order to continue with a third row, so you have to weave through. So I pass back again through its neighbour, and that's fine because it's okay having threads across between the bead holes, and then I'm going to cross and pass up through this bead, which is the nearest bead. It's the best I can do without actually having a thread on the outside, which you don't want in beadwork. It's nice to have thread neatly tucked out of the way. So I'm actually coming out of this second bead in the row, and as before, first stitch of a row, I pick up 2 beads and I pass the needle underneath the closest thread of the beads below, and what happens is the 2 beads separate themselves. They lie side by side, and pull it tight. I pass back up the second bead that I picked up, and so on. I would continue like that, and that's brick stitch. Well, I hope you found the video interesting and helpful. Keep a lookout for more videos on basic tips, tricks and techniques, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!